Hey guys, what's up? So continuing on, um, let's go ahead and show you where can you change the particle types. So what you're seeing here, this type of particles, they're points. That's the default type. So all these guys, they're points. So I'm not going to change the points because they're points. But if I select multi-points and I open up the attributes, you'll see a particle shape, and it's right there. And down here on the particle shape, there's a render attribute. So that's where you can change all the types. So let me see if I got them all. Point, multi-point, multi-streaks, numeric, points, spheres, sprites. Oh, no, I think I got the streaks. Yeah. So blobbies, clouds, and tubes. So multi-point, there we go. And these are multi-points. What are multi-points? Multi-points are just like points. They have more attributes than what you can see here. If you click multi-render type, current render type, it'll show you the extra attributes that you have for the currently selected type of particle. So as you can see, there is a multi-count, which is the amount of particles per particle. The multi-radius, which is the radius for those particles. And if you look closely, let me just zoom in here. Right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And there it is, 8. If I do 2, then there's 2 particles where there used to be 1. And so on and so forth. And they all constrain to that radius that you gave them. So if I increase that radius, then they're going to get a little bit bigger as far as the radius goes. Points also have this attribute called point size. So if I increase the point size, I can make these particles bigger. I'm just going to keep it low. I'm going to keep it at a count of 10. And there we go. So that's multi-point. Pretty easy, right? Just to make sure, points, current render type, then you see the point size. So if I make that point size big and small, you can see. By default it's 2. We can go down to 1. Streaks are just like streaks. So it's kind of like, just come here to streaks, current render type. They have a line width and they have a tail fade. Right now, because they're not in motion, you can't really see anything. But what they do is they give you a trail depending on the motion. So I'm going to talk really quickly here about fields. You can connect a field to a particle by selecting the part. There's 2 ways. One is to select the particle and go fields and add a field. I'm just going to add a Newton field. There's my Newton right there. And it's actually by default. I changed my defaults here, so I'm just going to switch it over to a regular Newton field. That's not a volume. And as you can see, those little guys are moving depending on the magnitude of that Newton field. So you can see that there they are. And if I increase their tail size, then you'll see them a little bit more. There's the tail size. So you can see how they're heading towards the Newton. See it? So they give you the idea of like a motion blur. Take that line width down to 2. And the tail fade, I usually like to keep it to -1, but if I make it 1, then just solid. So 0 or -1 is fine. Alright, so those are streaks. So again, streaks just give you the idea that they were in motion, so like a faked motion blur. They're kind of handy for that. And like I said, 2 ways to connect them. One is to select the particles and create the field, or you can simply create the field. So with nothing selected, I'm going to go ahead and make another Newton. Just going to go into the option box and hit reset settings, create, And right now those particles are not doing anything because they're not linked to the Newton. So you can link it by going to the window, relationship editors, dynamic relationships, and here I have this particle selected, and I just link it by clicking Newton field, and now they're linked. Alright, so two ways of doing the same thing. Just gonna press play. Oh, since I'm talking about this, might as well introduce that you can set the initial state of particles so that they are at a particular frame. So right now this is frame 60 and that's how they look like. So if I want them to look like that at frame 0, right now if I go back I'm screwed, but if I go back there and while being on this frame I select the particles, solvers initial state set for selected. So when I rewind, their initial state is that. That way I can delete that field. Their motion is still there because they have that motion and it'll keep going. But for now that's fine. Alright, multi-streaks have the same principle as streaks, except that they're just like multi-points, but they're multi-streaks. So just gonna have them selected there, fields, this time let's add gravity. And they're gonna come down. And there's the motion blur that I'm talking about right there. So field, source is solvers, initial state set for selected. And just gonna move this back up there and delete that gravity. They're gonna keep moving down because of their motion, like I said. But that's fine for now. Alright, so multi-streaks, you can see there's probably 10 streaks per streak. 10 particles per particle. Same principle as before. Alright, sprites. Sprites. Let's come here to sprites. Current render type. Right now they look just like thick particles, but they have some extra properties to them. If you had a texture that's transparent or that has transparency, you can assign that texture to these guys. So let's go ahead and just make something really quick here. I'm going to open up Photoshop. And what you're going to see is, you can make a black and white image, or you can just make an image with transparency and assign that to a shader, and then assign the shader to the sprites, and then they look just like that. So let's come over here to Internet Explorer or Firefox, and let's just go www.google. Oops. And let's type. Have you ever played a game called Doom? It's like a really old game. It was really cool. I used to play this like Wolfenstein and Doom and Quake and all these great games of today. They're based off that little simplistic game. It's incredible. There we go. So let's just select this guy here and load it up, save image, and I'm just gonna save it under the right folder. There we go. So let's close that and let's load up that image. I'm just making a little square texture here. Actually, I like this guy kind of better. A little dead zombie. Well, I guess it was a zombie, it wouldn't be dead, right? Alrighty. So, if you had an image with transparency, I'm just going to make a quick lasso mask here. So, pardon the jitteriness of this, but, it's just a simple show you how this works. So if it's not perfect, I hope you forgive me. So I got this image with transparency, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it as IFF with Maya, so it saves the transparency information. And if I were to load up this image here and make a new material and assign it, and then assign the material to these particles, ha ha ha, you get a whole bunch of dead people that are always facing you. Like I was saying, like, I don't know if you ever played Doom, but anytime you killed a character, a guy would always be facing you. It's really annoying and creepy. Sort of like what's happening here. You know, this guy's always looking at you and staring you down. So, but anyway, that's what's cool about sprites. They are always facing you. And again, they have a scale, so you can make them bigger, and that's an X and Y, so I can do 5 and 5, or I can do 1 and 5, whatever, right? And they have a twist value, so XL. Bitty. There's a couple of other things you can do with these guys, like load up an image sequence, but that's a little bit more advanced. Just want to introduce the topics here. Alright, numeric. Numeric are for troubleshooting. Current render type, and what you can see here is that they have a number: 7, 11, 6, 12, 5, 13, 4, so on and so forth. These guys are pretty handy for troubleshooting particles or for artificial intelligence. Like, for example, you know, if through programming or through scripting, I can say any particle that is any particle can, or I'll tell all particles to go and attack or get close to particle number 38. So once I script that, then all the particles are, or all the particle numbers are going to come in and attack particle number 38, which I just lost. But that's the principle. So this is more just to see their numbers so that you can troubleshoot them. You know, like if you can say, you know, any particle bigger than 40 attacks particle 39, and any particle less than 39 runs away from 39. So then that's pretty much what's going to happen. So that's really what those guys are for. So I'm going to just keep it there, because that's mostly scripting. Then you have these sphere guys. Spheres, I don't see much of the use of spheres, but I'm sure they have a purpose. Someday I'll find a purpose for them. They're just spheres. They're like little spheres. They look like geometry, but they're not really geometry. And they have a radius. So that's it. It's pretty easy. I guess it's pretty good for troubleshooting maybe a couple of type of particles, but that's pretty much as far as that goes. Did I miss anyone? Sprites, streaks, here's points. Nope. Okay, so now we have cloud, tube, and blobbies. Blobbies look like this, current render type. But what's special about them is the fact that you can assign any shader to them. Any shader. I can make, I don't know, I can make even a mental ray shader. I'm going to come here and make a mental ray shader. Let's say MIX, MIA material. So if I just assign this guy over there, I'm just going to give it a preset, say copper. Then these guys will render like copper. I don't know if they actually will render right now, because I would have to set up my render settings. But let's just give it a shot, see what happens. Render window. Options, render using mental ray. Render perspective. There you go. So they look like copper. And the other thing that's interesting about them is these two values, radius and threshold. The radius, of course, is going to make them bigger or smaller. The threshold is going to blend them. So I increased my radius and my threshold, and you can see how they're trying to blend. Increase that threshold to 1 and the radius to 3. So see how instead of being like individual spheres, they're actually all blending together. That's what's important about these three types of particles, because they all use the same. Blobbies, you can assign any shader, as I mentioned. Clouds have their own shader. What shader is that? See, they look white here, but let's go ahead and make a render, and they look blue, and they have some noise to them. That's because by default the particle cloud gets assigned to them, but you don't want to play with the particle cloud because it's the default and you don't want to screw up the default. So the best thing to do is come to volumetric and add a particle cloud and just assign that material to those guys. So now, well, they're going to look blue, so let's go ahead and just change the color to red. And now they're red. Alright. And same thing, just radius, threshold is the main two values. They also have this surface shading so that they look more solid or they look more cloudy. Probably too big, just getting too caught up there. And I need to change another setting. But that's pretty much the settings for those guys. And tubes are just like clouds, except that think of mixing clouds with streaks. Now so that means they need to be in motion so you can see what's going to happen. So I'm just gonna again select them, fields, let's do a turbulence. Let me just reset the settings. And press play. A couple more frames. There we go. So, actually, let's increase this magnitude. There we go. So it looks like not much right now, but there's a radius 0, a radius 1, and a tail size. If I increase the tail size, you can see how they're starting to spread out. And if I take radius 1, make it smaller, what's happening is that the big particle, there's like a little line connecting the big particle to the little particle. So it's like they're connected. And that is pretty handy because when you render these guys out, you can see that little connection there happening. See that guy that I was talking about right there? So it's just blending the big one to the small one. So those are all the types. Wow, that's a long time just to talk about the types. As you can see, particles are pretty expansive. There's a lot to learn about particles. So I'm just gonna pause this tutorial or stop it for a second and come back to it, okay?